Well, basically, when you get back to this issue about all these laws that are coming out where the government is saying, we will punish you for speaking out, we will punish you for refusing to believe in global warming, we will punish you for refusing to believe in the Holocaust, this is terrorism. Our governments are committing terrorism against their own people. Now, I see that as an act of complete desperation, but the reality is that the United States is becoming more and more like the Soviet Union, while the former Soviet Union is becoming more and more like the United States of America used to be. And it's amazing how this transition is going on. But you're absolutely right. We are headed in this direction of a total surveillance police state. They're watching us all the time. They're allowed to go into our computers without telling us, without a warrant. It's almost comical to see Jane Harmon standing up there screaming about what was a warranted legal wiretap on her conversation and rail about that when she was one of Bush's strongest supporters for warrantless spying and surveillance on ordinary citizens.
Oh, yeah, they're going to burn the FBI agents just like all the FBI agents that tried to stop 9/11 got burned or fired, and the very ones that helped it happen and blocked investigations when flight schools are going, this guy didn't want to know how to land or take off. He wants to know how to fly into buildings. They gave them record cash bonuses.
They absolutely did, and the same thing with the FBI agents for the AIPAC spy case. They're going to now be fired now that the AIPAC spies have been let go.
Man, I mean, I tell you, Mike, I really am getting freaked out. I mean, there is nowhere to run either. I mean, I'll be honest. If there was some new world and some new country, some island I could go to with my family, I'd still, do a website or something and try to fight for my old homeland. But I'd get out of here. There's nowhere to go, man. This is a new world order. And I just can't believe the public is starting to get an idea. But I don't think they realize, Mike, they tune into us and they think, oh, these guys are exaggerating. I can't explain how bad it is, all the data we've got. Let's take a call. Well, let me finish up on the drugs in the water. I'm going to make a film about this. It's going to be part of the new film I'm making in the future. That they've done the studies, and this has even been in the mainstream news and the Associated Press, where water supplies in reservoirs that are not tied to toilet to tap, that are not sewage reclaimed water dump sites where they have the sewage treatment plant and then it dumps into a reservoir. As a lot of these reservoirs that have high levels of Prozac and cocaine and nicotine and caffeine. I mean, it's all in there because sewage is going in there after it's been treated, but the chemicals are still there. For the listeners that don't understand that. They're finding in rivers and streams and small town reservoirs that are not connected and are not downstream from runoff of effluent that is from sewage, and they're finding super high levels of serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And I've seen the different lab studies where it's kind of like a generic mass binder of a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, fluorine/fluoride molecule. And it's clearly man-made. They are dosing us, and they know it's coming out, so they're saying every week on the news, I'm catching it, and I don't see a lot of news, we might put drugs in the water. Hell, they're probably about to announce drugs in the water. What's coming next, Mike?
It's definitely out there, and anybody who complains about it, they're going to try and ridicule us the way they ridiculed anybody who was concerned about fluoride being in the water. And you'd see all these TV shows and movies about anybody who talked about fluoride in the water. Even in Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick's wonderful film about nuclear war, yes, the guy who goes nuts, he's talking about fluoride and the purity of our precious bodily fluids. And that's what they're going to do to anybody who complains about drugs in the water now.
And meanwhile, it's the government pushing to make us take vaccines and saying they're getting ready for forced inoculations with the next pandemic. They want our precious bodily fluids.
You're listening to GCN, the world leader in independent talk radio.
We were hacked for 5 days straight last week. They went over our CDNs, directly into the ports, and they attacked the facilities themselves, and we would block them. The entire IT facilities. We're being banned all over the internet. We're being attacked by COINTELPRO everywhere. A lot of them are government agents or stooges who are kind of a snowball effect, a parrot effect, a Papagano effect, copying the operatives that get them to. A lot of other people attack me because I'm in pole position in the fight against the New World Order that is really not an enviable position. I mean, this, if you were here, you'd know, and a lot of you wouldn't be so jealous and upset out there and making crap up about me. But, it's kind of like the guy says in the movie Network, when he comes in, he says, if you put Howard Beale on television, I'll sue you. I'll go to all the papers. And he's like, great, we need all the publicity we can get. I mean, that's kind of my position here. But at the same time, I'm not doing this for ego, so it's not fun. And I'm way deep into this now, and there's no turning back. I want to take a few calls from Mike Rivero, another great patriot who, just continues to fight the New World Order and get the word out. And a lot of times I get news wrong, because I read this morning, and then I forgot to, I just blurted out that that there was a doubling of people. And it's actually, they said a 73% increase in adults using prescription drugs, and a 50% of children are using drugs to treat mental illness. So however that comes out. So that's from Reuters. So there's the actual number. I have a tendency just to blurt things out. Let's go ahead and talk to Brian in Montreal, Canada. You're on the air with Mike Rivero. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I just wanted to let you know that ever since you mentioned V for Vendetta the other day, for the last 4 days, they're doing it on purpose over Montreal to make the chemtrails in V formation. Like children.
Look, I'm not the center of the universe, not even the center of my own household, so that's certainly ridiculous. But
there's a Canadian doctor up here who said that they're going to take this new swine flu strain, since it's so weak, and put it in the vaccinations this fall for all us Canadians.
Yes, I saw that.
So if you didn't get it this time, you'll get it.
Yes, I saw that. In fact, thank you so much. Yes, they're going to try to make people with fear and try to make all the school kids take the new swine flu stuff that they've now said isn't swine flu, because it isn't. It's engineered next fall. But to add on that and get Mike Rivero's comment, I forgot to cover this. A big top British scientist, and I think I printed it, but I don't see it here in the stack. It's up on InfoWars and Prison Planet. Virologist says virus came from lab. Just Google that. Mike, you always see flu viruses come out of the East. They come out of a different hemisphere. They always have a genetic pedigree. This thing had no pedigree. It just came out of nowhere with 4 different types of genetics, and all the virologists we talked to said, guaranteed, it's engineered in a lab. That's like looking at a brand new Chevy Tahoe and saying, did it grow on a tree? No, it was obviously made in a factory. Your take on that?
Well, we've located several articles from the CDC's own website over the last several years where they had been playing with exactly these kind of recombinants, and we even found one article where they'd put together one of these hybrids and were disappointed that it turned out it was not as infectious as they thought it might be. And a lot of people are very concerned because we know scientists went out and they dug up the bodies of victims of the 1918 Spanish flu and recovered that genome, rebuilt it, recreated it, and started splicing it into all of these other things. And when we first heard about this new flu pandemic, we were being told that the avian flu component of it was almost identical to the 1918 flu pandemic. And so we're getting all this conflicting information, where originally the media was saying this was this new Frankenvirus made up of all these other components, completely new, nobody had immunity to it. Now we're finally hearing from people it's mild, it's not even as serious as regular flu. So there's a lot of very bad information going on out there, but we know the CDC has been playing with exactly this kind of assembled virus in their labs.
No doubt. Absolutely assembled, no doubt. In fact, there it is. Professor, descendant of H1N1 virus accidentally released from lab. Well, we told you that 8-9 days ago. Mike Rivero, stay there. Back in 70 seconds with more calls. We have a prominent Harvard professor, researcher, looking at other countries that have decriminalized drugs. Now their crime rates drop, drug use drops. He's coming up the next segment. After that, I'm going to have open phones for everybody throughout the balance of the show, and I promise I'm going to get to all your calls. Mike Rivero, whatreallyhappened.com, is on the line with us. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. And yeah, you don't like YouTube banning our videos, basically? Well, just go get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership. We've got to have 15 cents a day to pay for the high-quality bandwidth. Please become members. And we'll try to put out as many videos as we can to the general public, the most important ones. But I don't have the money to keep doing this. Let's talk to Thomas in Illinois. You're on the air, sir, with Mike Rivero. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivero, Mr. Jones. It's a pleasure. Alex, I got a question for you. It's kind of a question on, I know you're a father and have young children. I appreciate everything you're doing in the InfoWar, putting yourself and your family on the line, because you realize without liberty, there's nothing. There's no future for any of us. And I have a 10-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and it's kind of hard to walk that fine line. I want them to be critical thinkers, independent thinkers, but I'm not going to sit there and break down, the whole white Anglo establishment to them. What do you suggest, what measures I take to get them to ask important questions, but I don't want them to spend their whole childhood trying to break down the New World Order?
I would read them the Roman, the Greek, English, French, medieval fairy tales. Because fairy tales will teach them that just because somebody looks like a nice man, he's really a wolf. And you can only trust your family, and family comes first. And I would never fight with your wife in front of them. And I would teach them early on that the world is against them generally, and that nobody's going to look out for them but their family and themselves. And I would teach them to not care about Madison Avenue and teach them about sales and how the system tries to make them feel inadequate. And I would teach them that it's not cool to get into trouble. It's cool to live well, as the French say. I appreciate your call.